Ooh. Yeah, so did I.
Let me know when we're ready. Okay, running a little late because of technical difficulties. Sorry, folks. Let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Weir.
Here.
Pasanello.
Here.
Cater. Here. Larson.
Here.
Schneider. Ramirez.
Here.
Morris.
Here.
Okay, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Sorry, folks. Let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic
to the
for which
republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
liberty
for all.
and justice for all.
Okay, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Got to hear Joe on that one.
Huh? Good.
Okay, I guess next in line is the invocation by Mark Brady from Park Valley Church. Welcome tonight, sir.
This is the highlight of my year. I am thankful to be here. Don't laugh. Anyway, I just wanted to thank you
I guess
for your
next in
servants'
line
hearts.
is
And
the
it makes me
invocation by,
proud that
Mark Brady
I
from Park
have the
Valley
opportunity to be a part of this
Welcome
community
tonight,
with
sir.
you all, as Spark Valley Church partners with our town. I love our town. I love you. And I just want you to know that anything that I can do for you guys in the future, just let me know. And I was thinking about our church. Why has God shown us favor for 18 years? And I think we have a senior pastor that is a humble servant, as you are. So thank you for your humility and your servant's attitude. And Pastor Barry is transparent. He told me one time he struggles being a husband, a pastor, and a father. And I said, who says that kind of stuff? Well, it's somebody that's relatable. So my prayers for you all is continue to be led by your hearts. Let the Lord lead you guys. And just knowing that our church is here for you and we love you and we're thankful for you all. So let's pray. And I thank you for your love for us, and I thank you for this group of people that you have positioned in our town to make this the greatest town in the United States of America. And I'm honored and privileged to call Haymarket my town. So, Lord, I pray for every family that's represented here tonight, Lord, that you would have a hand of protection upon them in 2022. And, Lord, that every decision that they make, that they would go to you first. And they would use love as a common denominator in everything they do. So, God, just give them wisdom. Just give them knowledge. Or give them a sense of peace when they're making decisions for our community. I thank you for our law enforcement here in our community, God, that you protect them for their sacrifice and their service to this incredible town. And Lord, so we thank you for what you're doing here tonight. I'm thankful to call these incredible servants my friends. And I thank you for what you're doing in our community. And we give you all the praise in your son's name. Amen. Thank you, guys. I thank you for our law enforcement here in our community, God, that you protect them for their sacrifice and their service to this incredible town. And Lord, so we thank you for what you're doing here tonight. I'm thankful to call these incredible servants my friends. And I thank you for what you're doing in our community. We give you all the praise in your son's name. Thank you, guys. I thank you for our law enforcement here in our community, God, that you protect them for their sacrifice and their service to this incredible town. Lord, so we thank you for what you're doing here tonight. Thankful to call these servants my friends.
Are we good to try it? Okay, next agenda item, we have our State Legislature Day, presented by Danica Rome. Welcome aboard, Danica.
Hey, thank you so much, Mayor. It's good to see you, and thank you so much to everyone on the council for the invitation back. I'm always happy every year to brief the town council about my legislative agenda, and once we actually get through our 60-day session, I'll be happy to come back, hopefully maybe in person this time, and actually be able to talk to you all about, what we've actually accomplished this year. So without further ado, I'm going to dive into my legislative agenda, basically talk about the bills I'm putting forward, including one that deals with the BZAs, basically Board of Zoning Appeals. And I know Councilmember Passanello has a particular interest in this bill after we got our last BZA bill passed last year. So I'm going to go over these bills. Please feel free at the end to ask any questions, or if you have any questions about my bills as we're going through them, that's fine as well. When it comes to the budget, that is going to be a very fungible document right now because you have an outgoing governor presenting a budget. You have a new majority coming into the House of Delegates. You have the current existing majority in the state Senate, and then you will have a new governor who will have different priorities as well. So there's like kind of 4 characters in play here. So just know that the budgets that have been proposed at this point are going to be in a very different place come March. But feel free, again, ask me whatever questions you'd like about that. But any answer I can give you is going to be speculative at best right now, simply because we are so early in the process. And I'll have more to say about that in a bit. So anyways, to start off with, let's just dive right into the BZA bill. So just as a asterisk to all of this, I am planning to file my bills. All my bills will be filed either tomorrow or Wednesday morning. There are very strategic reasons to waiting until the day before session and even the morning of session to file bills. The filing deadline is 10 a.m. on Wednesday. The closer you get to that filing deadline, the harder it makes it for anyone to steal your bills. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing. And yes, that is a very real issue in Richmond. Ask me how I know. Anyways, regarding the BZA bills, the first thing that the BZA bill that we have, this one will require localities to provide funding for outside counsel to Board of Zoning Appeals. And the reason for that is that by mandating that, right now we know that counties are inherently an opposing interest in all land use discussions and all land use issues that come in front of a BZA. But at the same time, BZA members, very often of whom are not attorneys, let alone land use attorneys, don't have that access always guaranteed to them the level that they need. And so that when times do come up when they do need to talk to a private attorney, for example, they can't talk to the county attorney because the county is an adverse party here. So basically just making sure that they have the money that it's going to take in order to basically make sure that they are getting good counsel in order to make a decision. That's important, and that to me is an essential function of government. We do not, at this point that I know of, have opposition from VML or BACO on this bill, as it's really just kind of a clarifying issue, more so than anything else. And in fact, the interesting thing is with VML and BACO, it kind of, if you're going to pit 2 sides against each other on it, it's themselves versus themselves, because they have to represent BZA folks just as much as they have to represent county government folks. So we like to think that this will be helpful, and hopefully even at the municipal level this will be helpful for y'all as well. So next, another interesting idea that has been tried in Loudoun that I would like to have go statewide is having local elected officials who receive donations of more than $100 from developers who are basically have a project that's in front of the board to have to disclose that donation and then recuse themselves of the vote with this. This is already existing precedent in Loudoun, and so this is not just me trying to pick on localities. This is me looking at a really good policy in terms of transparency and saying, hey, can we bring this statewide? So I would like to thank y'all for bringing the idea of this to my attention. And yeah, I'll be happy to talk about that further. And so, I'm sorry, I was going to say something else with that, but long and short of it is, the council member, we reached out and we've talked about it a little back and forth, and I did get a phone call about this bill today, or the bill idea today, and so some localities, by which I mean 132 of 133 of them, are not going to be happy, but at the same time we do things that are good for the public interest rather than for people who are already benefiting from their current system. Now, next issue that I'm working on that affects the greater Haymarket community. Outside of y'all's borders, but still very close to town, are the issues dealing with the community of Thoroughfare. So as y'all are aware, but really just this is more for the public, more so than all the members of the council, because I know you all have been briefed on it plenty. Last year there was a major problem over at the brewery, in which a cemetery where there were basically Native and African American folks had been buried in basically unmarked graves, where sometimes you would only have a rock as a headstone. And that area was plowed over in order to make room for crops. And because of that, one of our local residents from Greater Haymarket, Frank Washington, it was a lot of his his ancestors, more or less, and his family's ancestors who are buried over there in the first place. There are a number of other cemeteries in that general vicinity. And so these are more or less historic African American, Native American cemeteries. And so the question is, what do we do to preserve this? Now, the county is pursuing they've already actually, they are purchasing more than 2 acres in the surrounding area to be able to turn into a community park, which is good, and we want to encourage that, and hopefully they'll be able to come up with a deal at some point with the existing landowner. At the same time, I want to make sure that we don't have similar problems like this that come up, where somewhere along the line someone made a mistake that could have been prevented, either because they did not look at the original plats, they didn't look at an old deed, or there was not a requirement to actually print whether there were existing cemeteries in an area when the land was being purchased in the first place. The problem is that with a lot of heirs properties, these are properties that are passed down generation to generation, but they have not always had a lot of paperwork behind them, because this is, one of the, historic legacies that come from people, after the end of slavery, is what do you do when you are passing along property from people who were more or less never legally allowed to own property before? Well, it happens to be that in Prince William County, Carver Road is the first area where people who were formerly enslaved were allowed to own land. And then over in Thoroughfare, right next door, this is another one of those areas. And so what we want to do here is really try to figure out what can we do to preserve these so you don't have mistakes like this repeating themselves. So I've got 3 bill ideas that I'm pushing forward. So the first one would require any public notice that comes with a purchase of an heir's property to mark the existence of a cemetery or the lack thereof in the public notice. And that comes as well as posting a map of all recorded cemeteries across localities. I think that simply by putting it in the public notice, that will clear up issues right from the get-go. Number 2, expanded notification procedures by localities to descendants of land ownership before a sale takes place. One of the complaints that came from Frank and his family is that they felt that they did not receive adequate public notice about it in the first place, or adequate outreach, I should say, because there was public notice published in the Washington Post, but they wanted more outreach, basically from the county toward them, and more or less trying to find these descendants in the first place. Now, that comes with complications when you're dealing with whoever is next of kin. For someone who's died, a property that does not have a will that is left aside, more or less, you have to try to figure out, okay, who's the closest family, and then you might have competing family members who want property, right? What do you do? And so we're going to try to clarify that process a bit and try to make it a little bit easier for families to be notified, while at the same time not trying to be punitive toward localities and municipalities for it, who are just literally just trying to do their jobs. So it's a tightrope to balance on it, but hopefully we strike the right balance in those. And the third one is expanding the types of documentation allowable for descendants or family members to prove their connection to a cemetery. So in this case, having your 50-plus-year-old family Bible that's got, the outline of your family that goes, back these generations on these heirs properties, that very often is the only form of documentation that actually exists for some of these. And so we are hopeful that along with those and trying to secure a historic African American cemetery designation for the property that the county has purchased, this is going to prevent similar problems happening in the thoroughfare area. So, we've worked rather extensively with Frank and some other local advocates, and we're hopeful going into session here because issues like this are not inherently partisan R versus D issues, and my legislative agenda as a whole, as you'll see, is not based on R versus D. I'm really working on issues that, number one, I think we actually have a chance to work across the aisle with, find common ground, and actually get passed. Because anything that passes this year will have to have bipartisan support. They're just without question. Now, in my first 2 terms in office, all 23 of my bills signed into law did in fact have bipartisan support. But my second term in office, we didn't have to have that. We had a Democratic trifecta. Well, we don't now. But we've got a Democratic state Senate, Republican majority House, and a Republican governor. So we have to have common ground somewhere, and so that's kind of the goal here. Next part here is this is not an R versus D fight. This is a open government advocate versus localities fight and municipalities. And yes, this one will affect the town of Haymarket as well. So for this one, this would place a cap on FOIA fees at $33 an hour after making the first 2 hours of a FOIA request free for the first 4 requests that come in any calendar month. All right, so let me break all that down for you. There's some other parts with this bill as well. This is probably the bill that VML is going to reach out to you and saying that you need to show up in all arms, possibly in armor with a battle axe on each of your shoulders, and try to fight me to the death on it. And that's fine. I respect that. At the same time, if your municipality or locality liked this bill, I would be surprised, because the bill, the way FOIA right now, the Freedom of Information Act, is done in Virginia, it is so slanted to the custodians of records to a point where it makes it incredibly hard when localities or municipalities want it to be for the requesters of records to be able to access public documents that their tax dollars have already paid for. We, as public elected officials, have to recognize that the public documents that we have, we are simply the custodians of those records. They are the public's records. They are the people's records. The tax dollars have already paid for them. There is a very real concern that comes from local governments about people who will file frivolous FOIA suits, for example, that take up a lot of staff time, and they are not really meant to solve an issue or to simply gain access to something. They're simply meant to gum up the system. Now, if you know my background, I was a reporter for 10.5 years before I ran for office. To me, it's not about the ideology of the person who is making the request. It is about the balance of the public having reasonable access to public documents. What I'm trying to do right now is basically get, if I can just kind of use a prop, say like props, if this is the pendulum right now that is highly slanted in favor of the custodians, I'm trying to bring it a little bit more to the middle so that's a little bit more friendly to the requesters of records. VML and VACO hate this bill. We have also talked to them about this rather extensively, and I'm willing to compromise, meet in the middle, find common ground, name it. That's fine. We're in the process of still doing that. But I will say that this bill did receive a 10-3 vote of support for recommendation to the General Assembly from the FOIA Advisory Council. And that was done after about 4 or 5 public hearings that we had on this bill. We had an extensive, very public outreach and collaboration, everything that came with this bill. So, we've done the work on this, and I am going forward on this bill, though we are still very much in talks in terms of what the final version of it will be once it goes in front of subcommittee. So I just want to put that one on your radar. If you have any questions about the FOIA bill, please feel free to ask me. I'm happy to. Now, I will tell you here that the next bill I'm going to talk about could end up being a multi-year bill, but I have some hope at least. for anyone in Greater Haymarket who has been devastated by the two fatalities on Graduation Drive right outside of Battlefield High School of the pedestrians who were crossing Route 15. One of them was a clear suicide, and another one, I don't know all the circumstances behind it. But the short of this is those are not isolated cases. We just this week, I think it was on Friday night, we just had another fatality in the 13th district of a pedestrian on Sudley Road. And that follows another fatality of a pedestrian on Sudley Road underneath the I-66 overpass. And we had a fatality here in the 13th district on Route 28, right at the Manassas Park, Prince William County border, right by Connor Drive. And you cannot go through Western Prince William and possibly think that we are doing enough to make intersections safer for pedestrians, for commuters, and for cyclists. We have to do something statewide, because this is not just relegated to Greater Prince William. This is a problem throughout the Commonwealth of incomplete sidewalks, for example, that force people to go into roads, lack of bike lanes, intersections that are simply dangerous. And what very much happens is that our local governments, when they say want money from the MBTA or from SmartScale, from the Commonwealth Transportation Board, they are competing with other regional priorities at that point. And small little projects like this that don't have regional significance because they don't reduce congestion, instead they are designed to increase safety. They don't score high. And because they don't score high, they don't get the funding. And then we have localities that are applying for RSTP funds, for example, and sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. You have the new federal infrastructure bill that came in. Okay, great. But even in Prince William, we still bond, a small number of road projects typically. We don't typically, bond a lot of other non-road projects that are commuter related. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a bill that we're calling the Transportation Safety Bill. This bill would basically take 10% of a surplus of these money that is not constitutionally required to go to our reserve funds, because that is a thing that we do have to do with reserves. Of the outstanding balance, the money we have left, I want to take 10% of that and allow localities to get that money to improve problematic intersections, to make them safer for commuters, for bicyclists, for pedestrians. This could even be something like raising the level of a bridge that are, of an overpass that is too low, like in Stafford County where they've had 3 trucks collide into it in the last year. These are the sort of things I'm trying to fix. You cannot tell me that there's any locality in the state that would not be interested in participating in this. All of us have this problem. The impetus for this, beyond fixing Route 28, for me, is in Gainesville along Rollins Ford Road. $1.5 million would allow us to create a modern roundabout at the intersection of Rollins Ford and State Manor Drive. I would like 3 roundabouts in total for what we've done through the VDOT studies and everything, blah, blah. We had a fatality at this intersection on one occasion, and then we had a school bus accident on another occasion. I've got parents who are afraid for their kids to cross the road because they don't even want to cross the road themselves as adults. The problem we are trying to solve here is how do we keep people from getting hurt and killed? And I'm not raising taxes to do it. I'm trying to find an existing revenue stream. And because in Virginia we are very good with our budgeting, regardless of the party that's been in charge, we usually have surplus funds which we can tap into. I'm saying let's take a percentage of that, even if it's 10%. And I'll tell you what, even if it's just a couple $1 million, that's a couple $1 million that will save lives. And that's the point. So next one I'm going to talk about, I'm going to go through this one pretty quickly. Next one is my top priority in terms of the amount of time I am going to be spending on anything. It is reforming our guardianship system for court-appointed guardians. So basically when you're dealing with guardian ad litem and such, we had a rather scathing report that came out from JLARC about the state of guardianship in Virginia, where they issued 42 recommendations for reforms for this system. You have people who are being left alone, who are incapacitated, unable to act for themselves, who are not seeing their guardians even nearly enough, family members who are being denied visitation when they shouldn't be, and a whole slew of other issues. So my legislative priority is to deal with this, because again, in the Saving Lives form, you don't have millions of people in Virginia who are in guardianship, but you do have thousands. And for the people who are in this is a life and death issue, and that's what I'm trying to deal with. So the quick version of this, number one, bill requiring face-to-face visitation by guardians once every 90 days, or their guardian designee. Number two, adding questions and details to the annual report submitted by guardians, so it's not simply just checking a box, you gotta actually be a little bit more thorough. Number three, requiring periodic review hearings that occur after the first year of a guardianship, and then every 3 years after that, in order for judges to review the quality of work by guardians. Number four, reforming visitation restrictions to have more clear guidelines on when visitation can be restricted, and inform the individuals being restricted on the process for appeal if they believe it was done incorrectly. So that's what we're doing here with guardianship. Next one, DMV. I'm carrying, originally I was going to carry like 4 bills from the DMV, and then a thing called the election happened, and the DMV commissioner is also now retiring. So those two things really kind of, we'll say shook the boat a little bit, but I still had one DMV bill that is coming to me from the agency that I'm happy to carry. And considering that Haymarket Town Hall is home to one of our DMV select offices, I thought y'all might want to know about this one. So this bill, this is a driver license extension if good cause is shown. This extends from 3 years to 6 years, the period for which a driver's license extension may be granted to certain persons in service to the United States government. So, for example, for active duty military, or for civilian contractors who are overseas, whatever it is, that people who are in active duty service who cannot be home to renew their driver's license, that you give them that extra time that they need. The other one is it extends from 1 year to 2 years, the period for which a driver's license extension may be granted for good cause shown. So I like to think this is going to be okay, but in Richmond we also know that there are never any guarantees. There are simply balloons that have not been popped and burst yet. So this balloon is still very much full of helium, and I hope to see it through a nice uncontested docket, but we'll see what happens. Next, y'all know from my past work, I love working on bills that feed hungry kids. That's one of my absolute passions is, you know, like Councilmember Pasanello, we're paisans, so we want to feed everybody. And we've passed 8 of my bills to do that so far, and I've got another 4 that I'm working on right now. So first, for K-12, number 1, this would prohibit school districts from prohibiting students from participating in extracurricular activities and graduations because they carry school meal debt. Right now, currently, in the 2021-2022 school year, there is no school meal debt. Yay! Reason, USDA has extended a waiver for us to have free breakfast and free lunch for all students. I want to see that done in perpetuity forever. If they did that, I wouldn't have to have a bill like that. But that hasn't happened yet. So, if we do end up having school meal debt again, I don't think children should be forced to miss walking at graduation because they carry school meal debt. That's the sort of thing that is actually allowed in Virginia right now. It is incredible the different forms of meal shaming that they will have. That, to me, is terrible. So, yes, go ahead and let them walk. Let them go on their field trips or whatever. It's not the kids' fault that they have school meal debt. It's just simply you never take it out on the kids. That's number 1. Number 2, reducing the processing time for free and reduced meal applications to 5 school days from 10 school days. The point of this is to make sure that we have much quicker turnaround time for processing school meal or free and reduced meal applications in the first place. And the reason that you do that is so that a family whose child would qualify for free and reduced meals is not having to pay that full price for the week or so that it's taking in order for this to be turned around in the first place. Because when it's 10 days, that's 10 days worth of meals that a family, let's say if you had a large family, all these kids could be getting free meals for those 10 days. we want to cut down on that. In Prince William County, they turn around these free and reduced meal applications in 24 hours. And also in Prince William County with this, the basic idea here is that it's not just free and reduced meals that are being served here. This is about getting money back from the federal government and state government for a lot of different things, because this metric is used for a lot of different things in terms of enrollment and free and reduced meals. For higher education, we want to do we want college administrators to do outreach to students that qualify for SNAP to let them know that, number one, they qualify, and number two, how to enroll. And and the next one on this is actually establishing a hunger-free campus bill to establish a grant program to incentivize universities to fight hunger on their campuses and make money available to expand anti-hunger initiatives. Now, with that, I have gone through my legislative agenda here. And I've got some other stuff. I got a prosthetics bill and some other things I'm working on still, but I thought those would be the ones I would highlight for y'all, so I'm happy to take any questions. And thank you for indulging me for like half an hour or whatever it was.
Thank you, Danica. Do we have anybody who has any questions for Danica?
I have a question, I have a comment, and a pledge. Danica, you know me on FOIA, and I'm going to take a position that's antithetical to most local governments, and I'm going to browbeat the rest of the people behind this dais into supporting that bill, and I'll be visiting you individually. And I'm just going to, I'll put it on the line. I have been, for lack of a better term, the victim of various FOIA charges by various FOIA agencies within the county, both within the county school system and the county government, to where they try to chase you away with bills that come with bottom lines measured in the thousands for some pretty ridiculous charges. So I'm all for that bill. And Danica, if you could you send me a list of the legislators you think you would need me to most speak to with respect to the campaign finance bill?
Yeah, so once the bill, so the short answer is yes. Longer answer is we probably aren't going to get committee assignments until the earliest would be Wednesday, but probably Thursday. Typically, they assign committees on the second day. Like first day tends to just be like public circumstance stuff. But once we know who's on the committees, and then once we know who's on the subcommittees, I will be able to then send that information to you, and we'll be able to proceed from there. So, yes, I can do that.
That's all I got.
Cool.
Anybody else have any questions? Nope. How about you, Joe? Are you good? Okay, I'd like to thank you, Danica, for promoting your agenda here and letting everybody know where you're going for the next year to help support us. Thank you for your service, and I hope to see success.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and for all the council members and just for the public in general. Number one, you are always welcome in Richmond to my office at any time, in Office 225. I'm taking over the office for the incoming Attorney General, actually, which is kind of funny. And at the same time, you can always reach me at DeLDROM, DELDROEM, at house.virginia.gov. Always happy to chat with you at any time. And regardless of party, regardless of ideology, my job is to serve my constituents. And so, you know, whether or not you think I agree,
I'll remind you of that later in the session.
I will say, let me say this. Councilmember Weir, after 16 years of you and me having to put up with each other, I think I don't need the reminder from you at this point, because I'm pretty sure you'll just call me to let me know. Let's call it Tuesday.
I'll remind you of that later in the session. Oh, we get a reverb. Nice.
Very good. All right, well, with that, toodles, y'all, and wish me luck.
Good luck.
Good
Thank
luck,
you.
Danica.
Bye-bye, Danica.
You occasionally.
Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item. We have citizens' time. I know we have somebody for citizens' time. If you want to come up to the mic.
Is the camera on the? Is the camera on the podium?
Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item. We have citizens' time. I know we have somebody for citizens' time. If you want to come up to the mic.
And the link in the same speaker system.
Okay, is that mic on, Emily? Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for allowing us to stop by and talk to you. My name is Bobby Kelly, and I live in Heritage Hunt. I've lived in Prince William since 2013 and find it to be a wonderful place to live, and I do a lot of business in Haymarket. So kudos to you. I am here to just very briefly talk to you about Heritage Hunt and a group of concerned citizens who are opposing the build of data centers on Pageland Lane. We are opposing the comprehensive plan amendment that's going to lead to the build of data centers on 2,200 acres in the existing rural crescent. The area, which is larger than National Airport, abuts Manassas National Battlefield, Conway Robinson Park, as well as Heritage Hunt. I live on Fieldstone Lane, which is in the back of Heritage Hunt, and if I look out my front door, there's a vacant lot across the street because of water issues. And I see trees, and it's just beautiful. And what I envision after visiting Loudoun County and looking at massive data centers and their electrical support systems that are about the size of the data centers, I have this vision in my head that that's what I'm going to see every day for the remainder of my life. In addition to the data centers, the proposal is actually probably going to increase traffic on Pageland by about 25,000 trips per day. And we also believe that this is the first step to initiating the Bi-County Parkway, or a truck route, that is going to be very close to you and very close to us, that is going to become an outer beltway. We know that this has been an issue and it's raised its ugly head from time to time, but this gives it the impetus to implement it. I'm not going to go into the good and the bad about data centers. Again, I took a little field trip out to Loudoun and came home very distressed about how awful that was. The noise in and of itself is enough. But the fact that they're putting it in the rural crescent creates so many environmental issues and potential health issues with clean water. And not only for Prince William, I mean for Fairfax County, it's going to feed down into the Occoquan. We have sewer problems in Heritage Hunt. They're going to feed into that, only going to exacerbate the situation. So it's really going to impact the quality of life, and I dare say it's not going to be just limited to that side. I mean, if they put in another beltway, you know, I was graduated from high school in Arlington in 1968, and the beltway was a 2-lane road. I go on it now, and you all do too. It's not a 2-lane road. So know that that's coming. So again, the purpose for me to be here is to just let you know that Heritage Hunt has a very robust working group filled with a lot of retired government, a lot of retired attorneys. We've done a lot of research, and we're making it available to any other communities that are interested in getting involved in this, or at least knowing what's going on. So I have petitions in the back that, since there are no other citizens attending, I don't expect that you all will want to fill those in, but I will leave a couple here, and if any neighborhoods or any communities here in Haymarket express an interest as a result of this discussion, you will have those. They can feel free to contact me, Bobby Kelly, BobbyKelly19 at msn.com. I also have a little piece of paper there with my phone number on it, but we would be willing to put any community on our mailing list and provide the packet of information that we have to share with you all, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And there's been a lot of publicity in local newspapers. It's not all accurate, and so we are spending our time getting true facts together and making sure that the proposal that they make has been open and it's been validated and they have all the information in front of them, which right now they do not. So again, if I can answer any questions, but my primary purpose was to outreach to let you know that we exist and we're available to share whatever we have. Any questions? Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we'll go to the next agenda item, which is the consent agenda. Does anybody have any reports that they would like to pull off of that agenda? Okay, I would like to pull off, it kind of says the town administration report, but I guess the town manager report is kind of what it is. I know we don't have an active town manager at this time, but I'd like to throw it out to staff if I could, questions that I have.
You want to pull B1?
Yes. That seems to be it. Joe? Nothing?
In that case, Mr. Mayor, I would move adoption of items 6A 1 through 3, B 2 through 6, and C 1 through 5.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Last chance for a discussion. Okay, put it up for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we'll open up the report. Moving on to B1. Okay, I know this couldn't be in the report since it's fairly new, but I did want to bring it up at this meeting just for a quick discussion and for transparency. And that's with the snow removal that we have had, or the snow that we had at the beginning of the week, the problems that we had with snow removal with our sidewalks. We did get some complaints about it. When we went through an investigation on where things went wrong, we did find failures within our system, and that there's really no policy or plan in place for snow removal. I don't know if it just it disappeared through the transition of people we've had over the past 10 years, or what happened. But what I wanted to do was to ask town staff, has a thought been put into place to at least get something temporary for a straw man until we can come up with something solid?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So last week, so that all of council's aware, when we were open, I had several phone calls that came in from concerned residents regarding their ability to walk up and down Washington Street. I did request they go ahead and email all of council. I know several additional citizens have reached out since then to staff as well as council and mayor. With that in mind, I pulled some of our older records. I'll give you the 4 years that I've been here, what I have learned from the scenario that we've been in. It changes about every other year depending on how much snow we get. So some years we've had no issues. We have light snow that really dissipates within, a couple hours time or overnight, causing no real issue to the sidewalks. In other years, we have snow, much as we had early last week, where it does become a hazard for walking. And in most of the instances, we do have property owners who get out there, they shovel, they take care of their sidewalks, and they take great pride in making sure it's clear for everyone to walk. We do have some issues as you get closer into the business district, as we have a lot of buildings that shade our sidewalks as well, creating very icy conditions, whether they've been shoveled or not. So in some years, most recently, February of 2021, actually, let me back up, I'm sorry. We do have a current signed snow contract with Premier Turf and Landscaping. One of the options is to add on sidewalk snow removal. So we do have that option. It's already set in place. we can decide tonight that the council would like to go forward with from here on until April 1st, when our snow contract is over. Anytime we get snow of a certain amount, we would like the sidewalks shoveled. My recommendation for that, however, would be to send that to Finance Committee based on how much it may cost and what our budget pertains. Roberto couldn't be with us tonight, so I don't want us to necessarily agree to something that we might not have in the budget and we should send to Finance. Most recently in February of 2021, I pulled the bill and it looks that we spent $2,681 on the snow removal. So it all depends on how much snow we get. It is a $48 per hour rate for the shoveling or sidewalk treatment services. Last week, we also were in a little bit of a predicament because our person that we have on staff who is able to assist us with this had something come up where they were unable to come into work. So we kind of had a worst case scenario on all fronts. We did what we could on our end, but certainly we need a better plan in place. So I would ask council to direct staff to look at the budgetary restraints, the equipment restraints that we have, and different possibilities going forward for a snow plan to be fully in effect by December 1 of 2022 for next year and into 2023. In the interim, I would ask that the council direct that we talk with Finance Committee to see if it's something we can go ahead and budget for right now this season until April 1st. If we were to get snow that accumulates beyond a certain amount, it can be, you know, I think 2 inches is the standard of when we would start shoveling our sidewalks. And then one last item, we do need to take extra precaution with our newest sidewalk that's gone in over at the Haymarket Hotel. Currently, I think portions of it are still closed to the public as they're finishing up their site work and their building work. However, we do have to wait a full year since the concrete was laid, stamped, and sealed to put any other kind of salt treatment on it. We cannot do any kind of salt treatments. They sent us over information, and that's to just protect the longevity of that sidewalk. Going forward, as we have other stamped concrete sidewalks going in, that's something we need to put into the maintenance plan, and we need to be prepared for. There will be sections in the future that will require hand shoveling or other means of maintenance. Maybe if it's a temporary closure, if that's a possibility as well, of sections.
Okay, I'll leave this up for any type of discussion or questions for the council. Chris?
Thank you, sir. I don't necessarily see this, as the mayor said, that it's necessarily a failure on previous council or management. It's just that it has not been addressed before. We just listened to 28 minutes from a delegate proposing new legislation. It's not that they have been missed before, but with new individuals come new vision. And that is one of the things that we have proposed to do since we've taken seat. We've proposed to look at these issues and address them in such a way where Haymarket becomes successful. So I don't want to go down this trail of blaming previous management or town council to say it's their fault for not addressing it. It has come to our attention. Let's address it. Let's fix it. But let's fix it not just for us, fix it for the future council. Thank you, sir.
Joe, you had your hand up?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I concur with Emily on this. I think we need to take a hard look at the financing and making sure that we get this thing budgeted for next budget. And of course, take a look at what we can do for this remaining season. That's, I think, the immediate challenge is the remaining season. I'm wondering, relative to the maintenance person that we're using, if that person can address those situations, perhaps pre-treating. And I heard you about the concrete. That's a problem I don't think any of us anticipated. And it's going to be especially difficult by the hotel because they will not get sun on that sidewalk at all. And it's, you know, it'll impact some of our discussion going forward, I think, on doing stamped concrete perhaps. We're gonna, I think, have to revisit based on location perhaps, or what's being developed in a certain area. Maybe we need to look at that as well, Emily. But if Matt can help us, and let's find out what equipment he needs to do that. Pre-treating would certainly help on some of the areas. The bigger problem is identifying exactly what is the town's responsibility, what sidewalks are we responsible for, and that's going to take somewhat of an assessment to do, I think. I'm not sure if anybody's talked to legal about that, so that's, I think, a concern as well. The other thing is, I had thought that Premier was almost like an on-call if we needed them to do it now. Is that correct? And so there's an hourly rate or something on that? Okay, so we can plug the hourly rate to some kind of a scope once we figure out what we have to do from a town perspective, and, you know, kind of establish that once Roberto comes back. Those are my only comments at the moment.
Okay. Is it feedback, Emily, or?
Yeah, if I could give a couple points to Councilman Passanello. The last one, just a ballpark idea. We had to call them out February 1st of last year, and they spent, it was a 5-man team for 2 hours, and they did that twice, so we were looking at just under $1,000 there. We had to call another 5-man team out for about 2.5 hours, and so we had another $600 there. So on average, it looks like when we have the heavier snows that require a bit more, we're looking at usually about a half a day to a day's work and spending about $1,500. Again, Roberto is going to pull these numbers and give you guys a much better snapshot. This is just your rough idea so that we can think about currently. Yes, Joe?
No, keep going. I'm sorry. Keep going.
And then just one thing on the concrete sidewalks. I think long term, we've discussed a great product here. It's just that initial, you know, putting it in place, stamping it, and making sure the concrete cures. But certainly we will take that into account. As for determining maintenance, we have not yet discussed with legal this season. I'm sure we have discussed it in seasons past with Martin and his team. We can bring that back up this week at our weekly call. But as for kind of the maintenance agreements, we do need to go through and do a full assessment on all of the different agreements, easement documents, deed documents that have been signed, and figure out exactly where that lies. That will take some manpower and time.
Okay. I was going to ask Bob a question.
Well,
Bob, can you
Bob's
hear me?
next on the list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go
Bob,
ahead.
you know, the maintenance line item, wouldn't that be well, I guess we can get into details on that, but I would think we have sufficient funds in the maintenance right now to get us through the season.
Okay,
don't you
wait
think?
for my question then.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob.
Go ahead.
The town has been the beneficiary of mild winters over the last couple of years, so this hasn't been an issue. We haven't had a large snow dump in quite some years, and I suspect that this year is going to be different. Nonetheless, we still carry a snow removal line item in the budget. It's reduced down to $7,000, but it is there, so we don't have to make take any extraordinary measures between now and the end of the month to accommodate any snowfall this weekend or in the next 2 weeks. So we've got plenty of funding that's available. We just have to utilize it and hire the contractors. Although, quite frankly, I was a little underwhelmed by the quality of the work done this time. I'll discuss that offline with everybody else. But the line item does exist where we have to pump it up. It may be one of those years where we actually have to use it. I mean, we've gone several years where we haven't used the line item at all. But, you know, nature has a habit of catching up with you, and I guess this is the year they're going to wallop us potentially. But nonetheless, the money is there. It is set aside in the line item. We don't have to go hunting for it. At least for the next several weeks, we're good. And quite probably through the rest of the snow season. But if we need to find some more money, then finance will find it.
We'll do it.
Okay. Mary?
I, of course, want to certainly reference with council as to what our obligations are. But I do also want to voice the fact that we pride ourselves on being a walkable town and ensuring that it is safely walkable for our residents and our visitors. I think that is in line with our mission and our values, so I really think that we need to keep that in mind as well, that legally we may not be obligated to clearing all the sidewalks, but I would certainly think that the brick sidewalks that we pride ourselves on would at least take some priority for us to own in the snow removal sense. That's all.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, I do want to say we do got a lot of vetting to do on what we consider our ownership, what's not our ownership, and just a lot of scope. Until that comes into play, I'd like to get an agreement on what we want to target as the sidewalks that we want to cover during this winter period with our money. My suggestion is all the streetscapes sidewalks on Washington Street and the multi-use pathway that we put in on the northwest side of Jefferson Street. Do I have agreement on that?
I agree with that.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, as a straw man for this winter, let's target those as our responsibility and figure out how we want to treat and what our response time would be. I'm assuming everyone's in agreement, a response time of, you know, like 24 hours for something that's under 6 inches is good, 48 for anything above 6 inches? Does that make sense?
I think that's very reasonable.
Okay, so that's kind of our ballpark we'd be looking for from staffing to put in place for this winter.
Okay, we'll
Okay.
work on that.
Okay, done with that item. Next item. I saw that we did, with direction for finance to take over, purchase a truck. I've been kind of kept out of the loop on any of the details of this purchase. Have we gotten the truck, and have we identified what our fleet management responsibilities would be for this truck?
Would you like me to speak to that, Mr. Mayor?
If you could, because in a matter of speaking, what I find out is I'm assuming we can roll this into your police car fleet management schedule and process to keep it maintained and upkept?
Off the cuff, I think that would be proper, sir, since we're already maintaining a fleet. I think it would be beneficial to the community and to the council to do so. So yes, we can. That's your direction.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if that was all discussed or if any of that was in place with staffing, administration, and the police department. Have you guys discussed that?
Briefly, we did during a finance committee meeting, but nothing on paper, nothing perfect yet. I think that would be a whole council discussion to make sure of what outlines you wanted us to follow, what guidelines you wanted us to follow, and how you wanted to implement. But it would really be unproblematic to do that.
Yeah, well, I think the details is too low level for us to make. I think all we should need to do is direct you to put it into your fleet management scheduling, and that should be it.
Not a problem, Mr. Mayor. Consider it
Without
done.
objection?
Without objection, is that agreeable on the dais? I was getting to that, Bob, don't worry.
Moving things
No.
along.
Okay, thank you.
No objection. Hey, I'd like to add something to that.
Go ahead, Joe.
Just want to point out that in the finance liaison report that's in your package, we did mention that the procurement was completed. And I think Chief Al did a great job. We brought that to a successful bid under budget. So really good job. And let's see, $5,793 versus a not to exceed of $7,500. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Presnell. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Yep, thank you to everybody on getting that done. Now, let's use it.
Well, Mr. Mayor, are you saying that you were not informed that it was done?
No, we directed finance to go ahead and execute with nothing under
Yeah,
7,500.
but are you saying, initially you started your conversation by saying that you weren't informed if the purchase was made?
No, in the financial report, we were informed that it was made, but I didn't have any information on what direction we were going with fleet management and anything to maintain this. And even if we've received the car yet, has the car in
It's
here?
been here. It's been here.
Okay.
Been here and tagged, it's parked out back.
Yeah, just didn't have the details on that.
Yes, sir. By all systems, it looks like it's a really good purchase for the town.
So, yeah, I'm just point of information, so to speak, and my concerns about making sure that we maintain it properly and everything. Okay, we'll move on then. Next item, I have plenty of experiences over the past couple weeks of people coming in contact with people who've tested positive with COVID, and it's definitely, Omicron is definitely showing that it is a rampant thing. I just want to enforce that we do have protocols in place, and I would like you guys to make sure that those protocols are still being followed. Just kind of a quick comment on that one. Do you guys have any questions or concerns on those issues?
No, sir.
I think I just would like to reiterate from the town staff perspective what we're doing to make sure we're following all of council's current requests. We are asking that all the public entering the building, whether you've been vaccinated or not, we are asking them to wear a mask. We, as town staff, are doing our part, also wearing masks within town hall when we're in any of the common spaces, aside from sitting at the lunch table and eating lunch. Once we leave the area, we put our mask back on. And then we're doing our very best as any of us have come into contact with someone who's tested positive. We are following the latest CDC guidelines. We're going to continue to do so. If we get to a crucial point where multiple staff members need to do quarantine or isolations, we'll certainly reach out, make arrangements. But otherwise, that's been what we're following.
Okay, how about cleaning protocols? Have you guys been pretty good about sanitizing the
Yes.
public areas?
Yes, and we still have our weekly cleaning services, so that is staying, we're planning on that for the foreseeable future. They will be back tomorrow again. We had a slight delay over the holidays with a positive test, but with the holidays, it was very quiet. You know, a lot of us weren't in here on a routine basis, so we let the 1 week lapse, and we'll be picking that back up tomorrow morning.
Okay. That's pretty much all the questions and concerns I have. Anybody else have anything while we have this report open? Okay. Then we shall move on. All the way down to Section 7, Agenda Item 1. Chief, take her away with your 100-day review.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you. I usually like to speak extemporaneous, but I'm going to read from a prepared statement because I want the information to be accurate and depicted, and I don't want to miss anything. So let me begin by saying how much I appreciate being welcomed not only by the citizens of this wonderful community, but the staff and council. I really appreciate it. Your support and guidance have been nothing short of exemplary. This community and council fully supports the police department, and we greatly appreciate it. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. Upon starting this position on September 27th last year, I reviewed both past and current budgets, past police reports, and spoke with both council members and town employees. I looked at the departmental infrastructure and spoke to the officers. At that time, I set forth short and long-term goals plan along with a 100-day plan to have the most important issues addressed. The 100-day plan I set forth addressed the following items: a full policy review, a full inventory of departmental resources, a full inventory of departmental equipment to include status, an inventory and audit of all evidence and evidence room procedures, server acquisition, and then the drone program and policy adoption. Item 1 on the policy review conducted included the following: are the policies up to date? Do the policies conform to current trends, legal updates, and modern policing? Are the policies well written, grammatically correct, and easy to understand? Will the policies conform to state accreditation standards? And my summary findings are now listed. 80 department policies were identified and reviewed. These policies were initiated in December of 2016 and found to be generally structured. It appears that the policies were obtained from Southwest Virginia Police Department that has received accreditation. The policies were grammatically correct, but were not easy to follow. They were difficult to read and in some cases hard to understand. On a positive note, though, from April to September of last year, Sergeant Davis and Greg Smith began updating the general orders with important policy changes such as duty to intervene and legislative updates. Sergeant Davis and I have already began bringing the policies current. These updates will make the policies easy to read and customize them to the town of Haymarket. Item 2, a full inventory of departmental resources, which included current staffing, experience level of personnel, training and abilities, and instructor certifications. My summary of findings found that the police department employs 6 full-time and 3 part-time officers with no dedicated support staff. The average years of experience is 15 years. To say the least, having this experience level in this department is remarkable. Upon having each officer complete an inventories of skills questionnaire, I found that almost all the officers have 2 or more specialty fields of certifications, another remarkable achievement. These are departmental strong points. Having seasoned officers with certifications and training greatly assist in managing issues and making sound decisions. Item 3, a full inventory of departmental equipment included all accounting of capital assets and departmental assets, description, location, and condition of the equipment. Summary of findings found that there were 7 items documented as classified as capital assets. Another 110 items were identified, inspected, and recorded into the inventory. All were found to be in good shape and ready for deployment. The inventory can be reviewed at any time by any council member. Having completed this process will accomplish 2 things. 1, accountability to the council and the community members of the property owned by the town of Haymarket. And 2, a better budgeting and outlook for the future needs of the department and the community. Moving forward, semi-annual inspections will be made of all departmentally owned property in accordance with the current VLEPSI accreditation standards. Item 4, inventory and audit of evidence and evidence room procedures, which included an audit of every piece of property and evidence currently stored in the evidence room, handling, documenting, and proper packaging of property and evidence received. And does the current process conform to the Virginia Code and DFS standards? Condition of the evidence room along with the security procedures. My summary findings is the audit of these records indicated that all property and evidence is accounted for and are located in the evidence room. Handling, documenting, and packaging procedures meet DFS standards and VLEPSI standards. The room itself is in neat and orderly condition. Moving forward, current security practices meet standards and are being followed. Moving forward, a safe will be procured to provide extra security of cash, valuables, drugs, and weapons. This is not only a good practice, but also required by VLEPSI standards. Multicolored carbon copy forms will also be used to improve tracking, archiving, and destruction of evidence. Lastly, a purge of the evidence and property no longer needed is in the process. Sergeant Davis and Officer Coppage have filed destruction orders with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office for the destruction, and it will take place soon. Item 5, server acquisition. When reviewing the infrastructure of the department, I found that the storage of the internal documents was problematic. The office needed a more stable and centrally located storage aid rather than the computer-based and external hard drives that were being used. Working with the town manager and council, I'm glad to say that this issue will be soon resolved, and the server installation should be completed by the end of the month. And then lastly, item 6, drone program. While assimilating the inventory for our equipment, I found that the office does own a drone. As you may know, the biggest expense with the drone program is the purchase itself. Training and maintenance are a minimal cost. Having a drone can assist law enforcement officers in several areas, such as search and rescue, traffic collision investigations, crime scene analysis, surveillance, crowd monitoring and attendance, town planning needs, and structural issues, just to mention a few. After discussion with Councilman Morse, we decided to get the program up and running. Although I wanted the program to be implemented in my first 100 days, we've been hampered by the cancellation of the required FAA 107 class that the officers were to attend in December, and a broken part that is on back order for the drone. We do have a good policy set in that to enact post-certification of the officers. This is not everything that we have taken part in or accomplished in the first 100 days. These were specific topics and issues that needed to be addressed. Other projects have been a security assessment for Town Hall, Northern Virginia Hazard Mitigation Survey. We've implemented purchasing and procurement request accountability for budgeting. We've implemented in-house communicable disease mitigation plans. We're working on mutual aid agreements with the Prince William County Police Department and Dispatch Center. We're setting up a departmental organizational chart, examined noise and protest ordinances. We've repaired our speed signs to track traffic data, procurement and maintenance of the maintenance vehicle. We've done evaluations of the officers, and we've implemented corporate accounts to save taxpayer money on some of our purchases. We've also engaged the community through Haymarket Day planning and execution, Christmas and holiday events, holiday candy program, and we've engaged with our local special needs citizens to make sure that they're safe and have what they need. Your next question might be, where are we going next? Well, we have a 5- and 10-year plan for budgets of the future, career development plan for the officers of the department. This will enable us to keep our experienced officers. We're going to provide quality law enforcement service to the community. We're going to initiate varied community engagement programs. We want to be able to interact with the public any chance we get. And lastly, we're going to become accredited. We've already started that process. Let me just end by saying that it is an honor to be here, and I thoroughly enjoy working with each one of you and being a part of this community. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to take them.
Anyone on council with questions?
Where have you been all this time?
Now, we're going to continue to move forward, and again, I do really appreciate your all support. This council and this town and the staff is really great to work with, and I thoroughly enjoy being here. I mean that sincerely, and I thank you for the opportunity. I really do.
Yep, thank you. And for all that didn't know, yesterday was Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. Thank you for your service.
No, thank you. I got several emails from you, including you, Mr. Mayor, and I thank you all for your well wishes and, again, your continued support. Much appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next on the list is the 2022 meeting schedule.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Back in November 29th, I believe is the work session, I gave you the 2022 meeting schedule. But at the December meeting, it was never voted on. It was just voted on that we would not have a December work session. So I just need a motion to adopt the meeting schedule for
Mr. Mayor, I move the Town of Haymarket Town Council set the 2022 meeting schedule as provided.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and second. Any comments before we vote? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So we'll move on to the next item, Town Hall inclement weather policy.
Didn't we just discuss that?
A little different. I just wanted to update the town council that I did not expect we were going to have snow before our meeting so that we could discuss this, but I wanted to let all of you know that we still just follow Prince William County government status. So last week, as staff, we just talked the night before. We waited for the Prince William County government alerts to come out, and then we made our decision based on that. So when they close, we close. When they have a delayed opening, we have a delayed opening. The only thing that I wanted to discuss with council as an option for all of staff, Now with a better server system, we do have more capability to telework. I think that it's something we should discuss. Some of our staff members live further away, and I don't think they should be traveling up in all of the ice and inclement weather. So if there is a possibility to discuss the teleworking status, I think that's something we should discuss. I think it's pertinent to still, if we have one person who can make it in, certainly have them come in. We do have a DMV Select to think about now as well, but we don't need all of our staff members risking it, especially when they live further out and conditions are different.
Yep. We're in the process of updating our employee guide handbook. I don't know if we got a teleworking policy in there yet. That's something we'll probably have to figure out and put in there before we enact something. But
Agreed. We can draft something up and bring it back for work session. I would maybe just ask that in the interim, if we were to have a bad storm, that I could work directly with you, Mayor, to make a determination that certain staff members could telework if that is an option.
No objection.
Yep.
Our goal
No
would be
objection.
to have someone in here, we do work closely with the police department to put nice signs on our door if we do have to close. We always try to get it out there as quickly as we can, but we just want to take all the precautions that we can.
Yep.
So,
One concern I have, just because it's an unknown to me, is the DMV Select requirements by DMV. If county closes but state doesn't, how does that play in needing to keep the windows open for DMV service?
Typically, the DMV would, all I have to do is send an email to my point of contact, the DMV, and they post it on their website. They're fine with that.
Okay, so there aren't any contract issues with us?
No, sir. No, sir.
Closing on our own?
No, there's no, there would be no interruption there between the contract and the town. So it's just county specific.
And we would reschedule any appointments, right?
Right, right. I rescheduled appointments from home on Monday.
Yeah, DMV's got a pretty good notification system with their appointment system. We can just, through one message, notify everybody for the day. Isn't that correct? So,
No.
no?
Because we work off the town's website. We don't work off of DMV at all.
Okay, for notification of cancellation of appointments?
It's all through the town website, through the bookings page, Microsoft. So it's not a DMV, web. Like full service DMV.
So it's ours then. We have this unique package then, right? Okay, I know you were explaining it to me earlier, so. So that's good. Like I said, my only concern was, I know DMV requires us to be open so many hours per week during certain specific hours. And I didn't want to end up,
I think they're well aware of, with the different areas of Virginia that, even though Richmond may not get 6 inches of snow, that it's a very good possibility that Northern Virginia will, or Southwest Virginia will, so that it doesn't they don't have to follow, the DMV selects do not have to follow the DMV guidelines, the DMV
Status.
because we're actually county pay market employees, so we follow the county, and they're well aware of that.
okay. That helps me out with my concerns. Anybody have any other concerns, questions, comments?
I
with
was
this?
going to ask what Emily had proposed, but if you're going to direct her to draft up something for us to evaluate and you're comfortable with the interim agreement, that was my only question.
Yeah, well, it's definitely something we will be putting into the employee handbook. It's just a matter of vetting it, probably pulling the templates from VML and, making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed by Martin's group. Okay. Take one quick look at Joe, make sure he's happy. Okay. We'll move on then. We got the RFP for the town sidewalk. How's that coming along?
So right now, with everything that happened this past week, I do not have an update for you on the RFP for the sidewalk. I will have an update in speaking with Roberto when he gets back later on this week or early next. We will meet with Finance Committee, talk through our update then, and we'll have something for you at the work session. I do apologize for that.
Any comments?
Another month goes by.
Yeah. We had some unforeseen circumstances, so, but we will certainly hit the ground running on it. We'll take care of it.
Now, where do we stand on this? Are we almost ready for putting this out for bid, or how far along are we from that?
We need to ensure that the contract sent over by Christopher Consultants, that document was in keeping with the policy that was recently adopted. So that is under current review. If that is the case, then we can go out. If that's not the case, we need to go back to Christopher and have some updates done, and then ensure review again, make sure it's done and move forward.
So that's our only hurdle then.
Yes, that's correct. And we're working directly with Katie, hopefully to set up a either in-person or Zoom meeting with her early next week, end of this week if we can. Again, we are waiting to have another staff member back here so that we can set that up. The three of us can sit down and talk together and get up to date on all of our projects, this being one of them.
Does that require yet another vote by us, or is it ready to go? Have we already authorized it?
I do not know the answer on that, and I don't want to misspeak. I do not believe you've already authorized it.
All right.
We're trying to review that contract to ensure it meets our policy.
My understanding is the design policy had to be adopted first before the RFP.
That's correct.
Okay. Any more questions before we move on? Okay, let's move on. It's council member time.
You missed
Oh,
it. Tracy's going to stab you if you don't give.
say, we're not overlooking that one, Mayor. The event
I must,
coordinator position.
I have an old one, sorry. I'm still working off of last week's edition. So let me put this in here. Event coordinator. Let's open that up.
So we're on packet page 46. This is the same job description that I presented previously. I just would like to make a quick note. I have pulled the social media position. However, I will still be champion for it. I will be researching and doing more findings and documenting that research and data that I come up with, working with all of staff to determine, do we really need a social media person? Right now, we feel it's a strong yes. But we will be bringing back more information in the coming months for all of council to review. We are working on a tracking log to show what we're doing on social media and what the benefit is and how we are finding that out. So we're looking at the data. We did not have a good snapshot beforehand. We didn't have routine posting, but that is something we are changing this new year. And we hope to bring you guys back a strong case on why we need that position. However, with that in mind, I do still want to pursue the event coordinator position. I have the job description here. We have spent some time in the finance committee. Myself and Roberto have spoken with the finance committee. They may still have some more items to discuss in Finance Committee. If you guys do not have any additional questions or concerns tonight regarding this position, I would like to request that the council do an approval with a condition that it's finalized, the salary amount is finalized through the Finance Committee later on this week or next week.
So you're looking for that position to begin February?
Yes, that would be the goal. The main idea here is if we can go ahead and get them in February, that gives this person several weeks' time to hit the ground running with the team, learn about all of our events, but also do a huge outreach and really focus a lot of time, essentially a month and a half, to our farmers market. We've heard from the community this is something they want. I've heard from council this is something that at least several, if not all, council members want to have happen and be successful. And so we really would like to bring them on as soon as possible to really do that groundwork and do it justice.
And as far as the remaining budget season, we have the money identified, and Roberto concurs.
That is correct. I would again like to ask for a conditional approval and a vote tonight, so long as he gives the final blessing on it. Without him here tonight, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but when we spoke before, he did say that we had enough to fund that position through the end of this fiscal year. And so, again, with that condition, I would like to move forward if we could.
I obviously am in full support of this. I would love to see somebody in this position as soon as possible. I've had our farmers market vendors reach out to me personally asking about when somebody's going to finalize things for the coming season. So it's on everybody's mind. And so I think you're right on point with all of that and the importance of it. So I appreciate you putting this together and pushing this forward. You have my full support.
Thank you.
Oh, that's the only one I was worried about.
Okay, so,
So do I recommend, Mayor, humbly, that we approve?
motion.
His motion, conditions on
On the
salary.
final numbers
Financial approval.
being
Okay.
discussed through the Finance Committee and given approval.
Okay, you got a motion and second. Just for a point of information, clerk, do you have what was motioned?
Would you like for me? How about I make if you would like, how about I make a motion and Tracy Lynn can do a so move, if
That
that's
would
okay.
be good.
Okay. I motion the town council to approve the event coordinator position conditioned on the final discussion of salary and payment through the Finance Committee and the final approval given by the Finance Committee regarding salary.
I second.
No, you know.
You
So
so move.
I so
So
moved.
moved.
Okay, got all that? It's all on record now, okay.
We'll do a little skit later.
I think we're good to go right into a motion. I would like to do a round robin around the dais for this roll call, yeah.
Weir,
Aye.
Patsanello,
Aye.
Hager,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Thank you, council.
I tell you, it's comic relief that I'm here.
No, actually, I think I need to say thank you for the presentation of it, because it's the way you presented it that caused us not to be able to vote no. Because you properly,
You always have an option.
you justified the position, and then you shared the different responsibilities. So it's really in the way that you presented it.
Thank you.
You know, so from the get-go, when you presented it, you took the comments back, you didn't sit on it, and you brought it back, and you shared the purpose of it and the usefulness to the town. And I think that's how it should be done. So,
Thank you.
Just thinking through here.
Didn't work with the social media position.
Give me 6 months.
Yeah.
Give us a minute.
And just think, Bob, I almost bypassed this for you, so you didn't have to vote. Okay,
Got their one.
so next item then, we got the council member time. Councilman Weir.
Actually, I do have a couple of things tonight for once. Without objection, I would like the town to work on a commendation for one of our residents, Josh King, who received the Coach Wooderson Citizens Cup, Citizenship Cup from the NCAA, and I'd like that for next meeting if possible. Some of the other things, I don't usually do legislative stuff this early in the session, because a lot of it hasn't been filed yet, but I know that Chris and I, there was a bill passed last year that sort of stuck in my craw, stuck in the police department's craw, stuck in Chris's craw, and there is a bill this year, HB 79, patroned by Ronnie Campbell, to essentially revoke all of last year's revisions to the code by which it precluded law enforcement officers from stopping any sort of motorized vehicle and allowing or not allowing them to use any evidence from those stops for things like inoperative equipment, mufflers, expired tags, and all of that thing. And I know the argument that a lot of made for the need for that, or in this time for that type of restriction to be put in place, but quite frankly, I view it from a public safety standpoint, and I think we should do a resolution to be voted on at the February meeting in support of HB 79, and I'll send that around to everybody. And then last but not least, the data center issue, especially on Pageland Lane, is coming to a head in the county. Anybody who is interested in getting a little bit more information on the data centers at the intersection of 55 and Kit Harpin, or the Prince William Digital Gateway along Pageland, or in the overlay district, please contact me directly. To that end, there is also a county community meeting on it, sponsored by Prince William County. It's across the street from the Hilton Center. The first one is on the overlay district on January 20th, and the second one, specific to the Pageland corridor, is on January 27th at the same location. And again, if anybody needs any further information, please contact me directly, and I'll set you up with all of that. That's all I got.
Okay, Councilman Passanello. You're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, can't see everybody at the dais, but just want to extend my wishes. I hope everybody had a happy new year, and 2022 is going to be a safe and healthy one for everybody. Thank you, Mayor, for sending out that email yesterday recognizing National Leo Day, Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. I think that was a nice thing to do, and I would concur with that wholeheartedly, being a father of a federal Leo. And finally, the month of January, we ought to be thinking about our firefighters. I thought back to what we did last month in expending those funds for the safety and welfare of our county firefighters, and I think that's really important. And I'm not sure most people are aware, but January is National Firefighter Cancer Awareness Month. I think it's a very important thing that we're aware of that, and we take steps to raise awareness for our firefighters, because they are important to us and part of our first responders. So I just wanted to raise that, make sure everybody knew about that. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Pater.
So I wanted to wish everybody a very happy new year. Last month was incredible. It was really great seeing everybody within the community come out, so thank you very much. We have our business roundtable tomorrow morning at 8. I would love to see as many of you as possible. We're also doing it via Zoom. So good luck in the new year.
Okay, Councilwoman Ramirez.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to also say Happy New Year and hope that everyone's holidays were safe and healthy. And I want to give a special shout out to Emily and our Miss Kim. Thank you guys so much for really holding down the fort and working so hard for us. And I know especially this past week has been really rough and challenging in its own unique ways. And you guys are deeply appreciated and your work is seen, and we're really grateful for you. I also do want to thank the mayor for sending out the National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day email. That meant a lot. As a law enforcement family myself, I love seeing those messages, and it's so important, Chief and our department, that you guys know how much we appreciate you and all of your hard work and sacrifices. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody up here for all your hard work too, and I'm looking forward to another year.
Hey, Councilman Morris.
I have nothing, sir. Thank you.
And on that note, I do not either.
Chris had nothing.
Yeah, January 1st, 2022.
Hey, well, he's.
This is
Don't say
resolution.
it, don't say it, don't say it, Joe.
He wants to go see the football game. Come on.
Football, please. Can't watch a game where they slap people on the butts.
Okay, let's move on to the next item. Bob, I hope you're prepared.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I move that the council convene in closed session to discuss the following. As permitted by Virginia Code Section 2.23711A1, a personnel matter involving assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of the town, specifically dealing with the office of the town manager, and as permitted by Virginia Code Section 2.23711A7, consultation with legal counsel or briefing by staff members or consultants pertaining to probable litigation involving Haymarket Property Group and the pending case of Bean versus the town of Haymarket, where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the town, and as permitted by Virginia Code Section 2.23711A8, consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel relating to multi-jurisdictional contracts. Yeah.
I second. No, I'm all nervous.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, we'll take a couple minute break to set up here. Okay, let's open this meeting back up. Let's go with attestation, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council certify that the closed session just concluded. Nothing was discussed except the matter or matters specifically identified in the motion to convene in closed session and lawfully permitted to be discussed in a closed session under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as cited in that motion.
Second.
I think I edged them out. Yes, I did.
Morris was quicker. Round robin, please, or
Weir?
Aye.
roll call.
Casanello?
Yes.
Pater? Yes. Larson?
Yes.
Ramirez?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Mayor, I'd like to motion to appoint Emily Kioski as an acting town manager effective January 1st, 2022.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Doesn't that require?
Is that roll call? Parliamentary? Okay, roll call, please.
Weir?
Aye.
Casanello?
Aye.
Pater?
Yes.
Ramirez?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to move to direct the Finance Committee as discussed.
Finance what?
The Finance Committee.
Liaison.
Please.
The liaisons? Finance liaisons.
Oh, boy.
As discussed in relation to remuneration for the acting town manager.
Okay, and, well, clarification, this is a directive, it's not a motion, so
No objections?
no objections.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Damn it,
You get.